Hi, this is Andrea. I'm going to share with you my perspective on a documentary that I watched last night. The documentary is called Pornography, Secret History of Civilizations by Channel 4. And basically it's quite a long documentary, and they start right at the beginning where they discuss archaeological finds that date back to right to the beginning when peoples and civilizations started expressing themselves through paintings and drawings and sculptures. And here they found people expressing things like the penis, the vagina, people having sex. And basically they point out humanity's interest since the beginning of time, basically, in the sexual act, in what happens when two bodies come together. And here they trace in this documentary it right back from the beginning when the interest started, and then they highlight, for example, the Victorian age, where artists started sort of candidly expressing the human fascination, not just with the act of sex, but with the on the one side you had people, especially in the Victorian age, wanting to hide sex. Then you had people and artists who sort of wanted to make light of the fact that this was the era in which we were teaching ourselves to suppress our sexuality, where it was seen as something that is not done. Everybody was doing it behind closed doors. Men were doing it with the maids, the wives doing it with the neighbor. It was already, sex was such a big thing then already, but it was so hidden and so suppressed. And what was happening in art is that people were exploring how the human was desiring and becoming more and more interested in what sex is and what the experience of it is, and yet with that people were more and more trying to suppress it. Then the interesting thing that they started highlighting was that even in the church, in your Victorian age, roundabout there, the churches were teaching people to suppress sexuality because people were starting to crave it more and more. And what they were actually doing is they would show you like hymn books and biblical books and books filled with historical religious stories, but in the sort of side print they would print naked people or people copulating or like a naked bum or something. So what they were saying is that even though the churches were teaching people to suppress this nature that was busy unfolding as the sort of desire for people to have sex, the church was giving sexual images to the elite that would then come into these churches and sit and read their little books and hymn books while they're staring at pornography. Very interesting. And that is how they made it accessible to the rich and to the men, obviously. They made pornography accessible, but while at the same time maintaining this air that people are not really actually doing what they're doing. So that's how they started looking at the first publications of pornography. Then you have your 50s and 60s where there were certain artists who sort of, or in your 1800s, let's go there first, where they started with drawings of people having sex and of body parts. Then you have your 1900s where they started taking photos of body parts, of vaginas, of penises, and of people having sex. Then they started with the creation of film, and there you had your first black and white films of people having sex, and that was a big hit. And this is still the era where people were interested in what happens in sex, and a lot of people who they interviewed in the documentary, who are now probably in their 60s, 70s, 80s, explained that back then it actually assisted them because it was such a taboo topic that a young man and a young woman are growing up and they're becoming aware of an interest in the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever, but there was no proper education because there was still this taboo topic. sex. Therefore, these black and white movies of people having sex, which were very seen as very artsy films, actually supported people. And what they had is they first had these little boxes that you could go in and you could watch a film of people having sex, and then they noticed they had them inside a room that the men were actually masturbating as they were watching this, so then they made a booth, and that's how these peep show booths came into being. And then in the 70s and 80s that became a big booming industry, your peep shows. Obviously then you have your publication of actual pornography, magazines being formed, and basically then exploring this media form of actually showing people what happens during sex. But this is, to me, where it started changing, where today you have the excuse being used of, oh, I am just watching pornography and it is assisting me in my sexual expression. It is not that. Maybe back then, when people were starting to explore sexuality and were going through a phase of suppression and what is sex, how do I have sex properly, I can use this form and this publication to assist me. The documentary obviously takes you right through to the different eras of pornography and how it changed and to where it is now, to the how many $1 billion a year industry. And to me, the thing about pornography is that it is in no way at all supportive of the physical act of sex. Because if you go and look at what pornography does, is in your secret mind you have these deep, dark, secret fantasies around sex. And that's what I'm sharing in this interview, is the fact that what sex is, and the reason why people are so fascinated with sex and will go as far as watching pornography and going to whorehouses and whatever it is, the fascination around sex is it's such a intricate human design. It is what we call at Desteni a sex system. It is a major system design that will actually drive the human to become possessed within the desire to have sex. It's not just what we found, because a lot of people ask us this question. They say, why is sex such a difficult addiction to overcome? Why is pornography such a difficult addiction for me to overcome? What people are not realizing, and what we have realized even within ourselves, having to walk through the point of sexual addiction or addiction to watching pornography, is that it is a major system design. Now, to go a bit into the Desteni material, what we basically found when they did the research through the portal was that the sex system was specifically designed to generate energy for the mind consciousness system to function. So the entire act and participation in sex, the whole intercourse point, was the generation point of energy into orgasm, and you are creating energy, and the mind system functions according to energy, and then the energy would be uploaded into a unified field together with all the information about what the person is experiencing and their entire mindset, and it would then go into the universal mind, which exists as all the minds of humanity, and that's how the information was shared, through the upload of this information. So you could say in a way it functioned on two levels simultaneously. It was charging the own being's mind to be a fully functional mind system, at the same time uploading information through all the minds so that all of us think and experience ourselves the same. Now, have you ever wondered why it is that all humans think and react the same to experiences? Isn't it just strange that we all have the same minds, slightly different but basically the same? That's why, because the mind as a consciousness was designed that way, for all minds to be interlinked. That's why the sex system is so big. And even with the removal of, say, on an interdimensional level, which is where Desteni functions, even if you remove such a system, a lot of people ask, but in the Destiny research you say that on an interdimensional level the sex system was removed and the unified consciousness field was disengaged. But if you're not sure what I'm speaking about, don't worry, I'm just giving you a bit of background information with regards to the actual sex system. But let's bring it back to basics that you can relate to here. Let's say even if that system was disengaged, removed, let's bring it back to each person. Each person within themselves is still designed as systems, as mind consciousness systems. Therefore, within each person, especially the sex system, is a big design, because it is constantly driving each person to become addicted to a sex point, to strive towards sex. If you look at our addiction to sex, it is not the same as any other addiction. For some people, yes, let's say sport is your addiction, you're like totally cuckoo about it. But what I have found within myself, within a lot of people that we work with on the forums, within all the people in the world, look at it for yourself. What is the one thing that everybody's obsessed about? What is the one thing that you will grow up planning your entire life around to get? Sex. You grow up and change yourself and become the perfect personality to get a partner, get married, have sex, have babies. That in itself is one of your biggest designs, is the design of consciousness to procreate and to continually creating more of the human mind. Survival of the human mind. So the sex system functions on many levels. That's why it's such a big point for people. Now, with regards to pornography, in the mind is using desires, serious secret mind. We call it secret mind because you have your conscious mind, which are your thoughts and experiences that you are aware of. Then you have your subconscious mind, and then you have your unconscious mind. Unconscious is like the stuff that you're not aware of, and those are more like generational stuff and information that is, you could say, running in the background. Now, the secret mind would be the information that is running in the background that you are not even aware of, that comes up into the conscious mind, and next thing you're having this major desire and you're just like, whoa. And people say it's natural, people say it's human nature. Okay, now a lot of people ask the question, oh come on, what is wrong with me having pictures in my head and masturbating to pictures and watching pornography? Why do we say, Destiny, that pornography and masturbating using pictures in your mind is abusive? Is because, first of all, pornography abuses the female form so people can make money. If you see what they're doing in pornography, that stuff is not real. This way they have to prepare those men and women to be able to do those acts, you cannot do that. I mean, putting a baseball bat up a girl's bum to prepare her to, which is what I saw in another documentary, to prepare her anus so that she can be given up the arse by 4 big-dicked black men. Within pornography, that specific scene, on top of that, the whole scene was that these 4 black men hired a prostitute. The one guy hired a prostitute. The prostitute arrives, and then all 4 guys, she wasn't expecting that, and then they all rape her. That's what pornography is based on. If you've noticed these pornographic scenes, majority of the time it is about the woman being taken, it's about the woman being violated. There's a lot of rape scenes now in pornography. There's a lot of harm being done to the physical, where the physical is being pushed to the max and it's not real. I don't care what anybody says, that stuff's not real. So pornography is playing it on that point, where people are saying, oh, it's real, it's great, I get to watch what other people do, what I can't do. That stuff's not real. Now, what is it that they're tapping into when they are showing you these very explicit fantasy points? They're tapping into the secret mind. So when people ask me, or they ask us that participate in the forums, and they say, look, why do you say there's something wrong with using pictures and pornography, and what's the point behind that? So that whole thing of an industry using lies to make money, selling to you as if it's real. Why can they sell it to you? Because they are using your secret mind thoughts. Now, then somebody will say to me, well, what's wrong? What's in my mind, man? What's wrong with that? What is going on is that if you look inside the secret mind, have you ever had a reactive experience to watching bestiality? Have you ever sometimes watched images of child pornography and had a sexual reaction, even just for a millisecond? Have you ever watched pornography and you know those scenes where they are raping a girl and you've had a sexual response? That's exactly what I'm talking about. All of those reactions that you have to that stuff exist within the secret mind. And the secret mind is how the sex system triggers people to go into the point of sexual addiction. A lot of people look at this and say, no ways, man, that's too weird. But look at it carefully for yourself. All the evidence is out there. I mean, I'm now presenting this information to you to start creating commonsensical links and ways for you to create your own insight. And a lot of people will say, no ways. Look at it for yourself. That reaction that you had to seeing that one scene, and you had a bit of, and you went, whoopsie, oh, that was wrong. We've all had it. Every single person has had within their life a sexual reaction to seeing something obscene, something that would be called by society as being wrong. Okay? Whether it is your own desire of being gang raped, whether it is your own desire of being approached by a man and taken, or whatever the scenario is, or being in a foursome or a fivesome, whatever the fantasy is, or a big black stallion getting hold of you, whatever the fantasy, every single person, those are just examples, has such a fantasy. That is an example of the secret mind that you are accessing, that is running in the background, that is continually fueling fantasies. Now, what people are not realizing about this point is that what we are doing in pornography is that they are accessing the secret mind, and they are giving people the pictures that they want. And look at what's happening today. There's nothing that pornography doesn't do. Seriously, nothing. You're aware of that, okay? They, therefore, have really gone to the secret mind of the person. Now, the problem is, you say, okay, but what is wrong with me watching that imagery? You're saying I'm responsible. At Destiny, you people are saying that we are responsible for the rapists and the abuse in the world. Because look at what's happening within the mind when we allow the secret mind to be lived out in such a way that is not based in self-responsibility. When we go, oh, a part of the secret mind is cool. I can watch pornography, and that part of the secret mind I can fantasize about and masturbate about. But look at what happens when people in society go and molest children, and they get involved in bestiality, and they rape people. Then we look at that and we go, that is wrong. That guy should not have taken it that far. But look at what he was doing. Within himself, a secret mind thought came up, I must have sex with that child. And to him, there's perhaps a little bit of shame going on, but there's mostly this drive that comes up from inside. And it is that same drive that comes up inside of people that makes them go and click on the button, and they go in on the internet and they go and look for pornography. And you will notice that men will become, they will need more and more to stimulate the mind. So the good old pornography from 20 years ago where they were humping missionary style, a little bit of doggy style, that's not good enough anymore. Now you want to see really, really nasty, nasty stuff. Nasty stuff that if you had to live that in the physical, you would not be able to do that. If you, and this is another point I want to mention, another point why I say that pornography in itself is abusive is because it invalidates the woman as the reality of what the woman is. Because now men are growing up, and look how young people are when they start watching pornography now. And now a youngster is watching pornography and he thinks that is real. He thinks that is what women should give him. The fact that what that woman is doing in pornography is she is participating in stimulating the fantasies of people so that the guy who owns the porn company can make money. She's participating. These girls are being brainwashed, literally, to believe that they are actually doing humanity a service. I mean, there was another documentary on pornography that I watched parts of it, but basically these girls are so brainwashed that they think they are doing other women a favor by being porn stars and by creating these ridiculous scenarios. You know, I'm all for sexual expression. I'm all for discovering what it is that you can do in the physical. What do you enjoy? What does your partner enjoy? However, if pornography was based on supportive educational documentaries where they support people in being able to do an experiment with a physical effectively, comfortably, enjoyably, that's one thing. But then the porn industry wouldn't exist, because how many documentaries do you actually need to be able to do sex? There's only that much you can do with sex. It's all being done, which means already by the mid, you know, if you look at it, where are we now with pornography? Already 20 years ago they would have had to stop. So obviously they have to make money, and they are continuing, and I mean, where is it going to end? You know, now that we have things like vaginoplasty, where women are actually having their vaginas surgically changed so that they look like porn star vaginas. I did an interview about that, which I'll still upload, but that is another level of ridiculousness, which functions on the same level, where women are not taking into consideration that men want to see porn star vaginas. In other words, you are facilitating and participating in giving that man his picture fantasy that exists in his mind. You are completely invalidating the physical reality as it is. And you are giving the man or woman or whoever participates in that pornography, you're giving them the fantasies, and fantasies will never end. The way that humanity is currently, and the way that people are not taking self-responsibility, it's not going to end. And the problem is that we are, while we are judging the child molester and the rapist, we are doing it in any way what they are doing, but it's called pornography. Then it's okay. And we are doing things like vaginoplasty, and we are doing things like plastic surgery to try and look more like desirable pictures for men to fuck in their minds. And therefore, we are abusing the physical form. And those who are running these porn industries will try and convince me, in the documentaries that I've watched, will try and tell me that they are supporting people in becoming more expressive. That is not so. And people who are addicted to pornography believe, as I believed once when I was really sort of addicted in a way to sex and masturbation, it was explained, all of this was explained to me, but the experience within myself was so overwhelming. This energy was like buzzing the whole time, and I was thinking about sex, and I was like masturbating every second night or every night or sometimes twice a day, and this energy was just pushing me the whole time, and thoughts were just pushing me the whole time. Get a boyfriend, have sex. That guy, you like that guy, come on, get close to him. So I fully understand, and a lot of people say that once they are addicted to pornography and sex and masturbation or whatever, it's very difficult to stop. You know, if you really understand the point of what it means, of what is really going on, and what are we creating is this physical reality. I mean, what are we going to allow one day, if we are now ready at the level where we are, of completely not taking self-responsibility within sex, within our society? At what point are we going to cross the line where right now child abuse is illegal, but in anime porn you can watch little girls getting banged? So at what point are we going to cross the line where we are going to, in our society, start allowing things like child abuse, where we start making the ages younger and younger that children can have sex. At what age are we going to legalize bestiality? At what age are we going to, or at what point in time are we going to legalize rape? Where we're going to say, well, if a woman wants to wear skanky clothing, and it can be proven that she was wearing skanky clothing, you see how there's a fine line, because within the mind of the person addicted to pornography, the justifications and excuses are so extensive of why it is natural and normal for you to be able to watch these images, and that you don't have to take self-responsibility for looking at everything that is involved in what is in front of you. That none of that is natural. Because if it was natural, they would have stopped a long time ago, because there really is only so much you can do with sex. So that's my perspective. And that's just what I want to share in relation to us starting to connect the dots between what is effective sexual self-expression and what is mind-generated garbage that we are busy through our society. We are creating, all of these events are playing out around us the whole time. Rape is happening, child abuse is happening, sexual abuse of women and children is happening the whole time. The sex industry, children being kidnapped to go into sex rings, that's happening because we have already as a society, as the mind, accepted the fantasy reality of the mind. So if you have one guy who is watching it and masturbating to it on his computer, but it's fake, apparently, he's feeding the mind, the next guy is accessing the mind, he's doing it. When do we as society not start taking self-responsibility and realizing that that which we are participating in just to get that kick, that feeling, is not necessarily what is best for us? People want to justify that this feeling is what is so natural. It comes up inside of me, therefore it must be natural. But the rapist can say the same thing. This feeling comes up inside of me, therefore it is natural. You could argue that. So time for us to take self-responsibility. Thank you very much.